Hello friends and namaste. Welcome back to the Sacred Space with me. I am your host Preetha Lal as we spend time reading the book Eternal Values for a Changing Society by the late Srimad Swami Ranganthananda ji. As you are aware, and if you've been following the space, Swami Ranganthananda was the 13th president of the Ramakrishna Matan Mission, but he was also a spiritual ambassador, a philosopher, and a teacher, and a scholar par excellence. This multi-volume treatise that I have decided to read to you through this podcast is a testament to the breadth and depth of his knowledge and wisdom. The chapter I will read today is called The Appeal of Vedanta to Modern Man, and in it, the Swami begins with an explanation of the word Hindu, followed by a very scientific introduction to the approach of the Upanishads. He then brings in the foundational concepts of Vedanta, its universality, and a high-level discussion of its key teachings. This universality of Vedanta is not only evident in the words he has written, but also even in their reach. It is interesting to know that this chapter is the speech that was delivered at the Archaeological Society in Athens, Greece, under the auspices of the National Committee of the Government of Greece for Cooperation with the UNESCO on April 14th in 1961. This was a part of the Swami's 4-month lecture tour of 17 European countries during that time. Let us begin as we read from the Eternal Values, written by one of the greatest spiritual ambassadors and speakers India and the world was ever fortunate to witness. The Appeal of Vedanta to Modern Man. India is noted for her long cultural history, unbroken for over 5,000 years. During this impressively long career, she has experienced life from every conceivable angle, height, and depth. This has invested her cultural life with a rare quality of richness, variety, and maturity as a result of the guidance it has received from a broad worldview and the sustenance it received from religion and the spiritual motive. Origin of the word Hindu. What is that religion or philosophy? For both are inextricably connected from the Indian point of view that has comprehended and sustained every aspect of her culture and life. India herself has given no particular name to this religion or philosophy, though she has evolved and fostered in later ages, within her mother's heart, a large number of cults and creeds bearing specific names and forms. The term Hindu and Hinduism were coined by nations outside of India, especially by the ancient Iranians, to designate the people and religion of the country India to the east of the river Sindhu or Indus. The term India itself is a Greek and modern Western derivation from the older Iranian term Hind. Indian thinkers themselves call their religion by the general but significant term Sanatana Dharma or eternal religion. The scientific approach of the Upanishads. We can study the emergence of the central features of this Sanatana Dharma in the Upanishads or Vedanta, which are the closing portions of the Vedic literature. It is not a set of creeds or dogmas that is set forth in these Upanishads. In them, we are in the presence of that earnest passion and mood in the search for truth in nature, life, and experience, characteristic of all true science, and fearlessness pervades that search and the announcements of the insights gained. A dispassionate and intelligent study of the way ancient India raised this enduring structure of religion, as well as the nature and content of that religion, with its limitless and all-comprehending spirituality, can be very rewarding, intellectual, and spiritual discipline to men and women today. The Vedic age of ancient Indian history was drawing to a close. The atmosphere was charged with a mood of questioning and enquiry. The spirit of freedom was in the air. The interest of the Indian mind was shifting from the study of the external world to the study of the internal world, from the external physical nature to the inner nature of the human being. The previous study could not give conclusive answers to the pressing problem of thought, the nature of the universe, of the human, and of his destiny. Perhaps the study of the human being, it was felt, might help to unravel the mystery of existence. Even otherwise, it offered a new and mysterious field of investigation. This phenomenon in the history of ancient India is paralleled by a similar interest in the subject of the human and his inner being, evinced by thinkers in the modern age. The inner world constituted by the mind of the human being with its facts of consciousness, the moral sense, the feeling of individuality, logical and rational powers, the states of waking, dream, and sleep, and a vague sense of deathlessness and survival, offered a challenge to the gifted thinkers of the day, and they accepted this challenge and wrestled with it individually and in groups with a persistence and objectivity rare in the history of philosophic thought. The Vedanta, a mighty synthesis. The impressive record of these endeavors and the truth and insights gained therefrom have been preserved for humanity in the immortal literature, the Upanishads, which form the closing portions of the vast and varied Vedic literature. Since they contain philosophy, the quintessence of the Vedas, the Upanishads are also known as Vedanta. Vedanta is the product of a fearless quest of truth by minds that were undisturbed by the thought of there being a public to please or critics to appease. As Max Muller terms it in 3 lectures on Vedanta philosophy, page 39. And the search was thoroughly objective and detached, free from the moods and predilections of personality. Thought forged ahead step by step under the stimulus of a passion for truth and in a perfect atmosphere of freedom. Diverse facts of the world of internal nature were noted and classified. Theories were advanced, challenged, subjected to verification, and finally accepted or rejected, unhampered by fear of authority or love of dogma. Accepted beliefs were questioned, sometimes ridiculed, often rejected without a tear, and there emerged the beautiful edifice of thought known as Vedanta. Impersonal in approach and therefore universal in spirit, whose rationality and spirituality have made it a synthesis of science and philosophy, religion and ethics in one. This was the fruit of the intellectual and spiritual ferment that swept over a portion of India at that time. The regions comprised of modern eastern Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, and western Bihar. The best minds of the age were involved in it, sages and kings, men and women, and youths. The Upanishads, the product of a dynamic age. The Upanishads give us a picture of a dynamic age, an arresting procession of students and teachers in quest of truth and wisdom, an impressive record of their dialogues in small groups and large assemblies, a flight now and then into the regions of the sublime, caught in snatches of poetry, vigorous and graceful, an array of beautiful metaphors, telling imageries serving as feathers to their arrows of thought in flight. These varied features of the Upanishads invest them with the beauty and charm of enduring literature and loftiness and vigor of lived philosophy. The rishis, sages of the Upanishads, discovered the laws that govern the inner world, much as physical scientists discover the laws of external physical nature. The laws or the facts which they seek to explain are not created by the scientists. They are beginningless as the universe itself. but they were known to the human being till he gave himself a discipline in detachment, objectivity, and precision born of a passion for truth, which constitutes a scientific mind and temper. Definition of the word Veda. The scientist is but the discoverer of the laws of nature, and knowledge of these laws enables him to control the forces and workings of nature. The same is the position that Indian thought accords to these rishis who discovered the spiritual truths recorded in the Vedas, aided as they were by minds sharpened by intellectual, moral, and spiritual discipline. Swami Vivekananda, in his address to the Chicago Parliament of Religion, says, "By the Vedas no books are meant. They mean the accumulated treasury of spiritual laws discovered by different persons at different times. Just as the law of gravitation existed before its discovery and would exist if all humanity forgot it, so it is with the laws that govern the spiritual world. The moral, ethical, and spiritual relations between soul and soul, between individual spirits and the Father of all spirits, were there before their discovery and would remain even if we forget them. The discoverers of these laws are called rishis or sages," Swamiji said, "and we honor them as perfected beings. I am glad to tell this audience that some of the very greatest of them were women." Unquote. This rishihood, Swami Ranganthananda continues, this capacity to discover spiritual truths is not a national Indian monopoly. Indian thought holds it as a universal phenomenon. In fact, Vedanta or Sanatana Dharma holds that it is this very effort and its culmination that constitutes religion. Religion is anubhava or realization and not a matter of belief or mere conformity or creed or dogma. The universality of Vedanta. Vedanta has taught India to recognize in non-Indian sages like Christ or Laozi, St. Francis or Eckhart, authentic expressions of the human being's highest spiritual experience. One of the enduring fruits of Vedanta has been peace and harmony, tolerance and acceptance. This flows from its teaching of the non-duality of the ultimate reality and the possibility of different approaches to it. The Rig Veda gave eloquent expression to this great idea in the famous line, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, meaning, truth is one, sages call it by various names. This sentiment was taken up and amplified by every subsequent age of Indian thought, from Sri Krishna in the Gita, through Buddha and Ashoka, Shankara and Akbar, down to Sri Ramakrishna in our age, until it has become a most distinguishing mark of the Indian religious and cultural outlook. The human being's innate divinity. Another important teaching of Vedanta is the innate divinity of the human being. To the purified vision of the Vedantic sages, the human appeared as divinity struggling for expression through the psychophysical organism. Purity, knowledge, and freedom are his essential nature. The kingdom of heaven is within you, assures Jesus. The story of evolution is a story of the manifestation of this divinity through suitable changes in the environment and in the organism. The evolution is thwarted or helped by adverse or favorable natural conditions in the early stages and by social and personal factors in the later ones. The spirit in the human, in the march of evolution, overcomes all obstacles to its free expression and achieves civilization, culture, and spiritual enlightenment stage by stage. Christs and Buddhas represent the final goal of this long travail of evolution, religion as realization. And that introduces us to the third significant idea of Vedanta, that the goal of life is spiritual realization, the fullest manifestation of the divine within in life and conduct. Food and clothing, shelter and security, power and knowledge, politics and society are not ends in themselves, says Vedanta. They are but the means, while the end is the fullest development of the individual, the complete manifestation of the perfection already in him. The exhortation of Jesus expresses his idea. And this hope, be ye therefore perfect, even as the Father which is in heaven is perfect. Vedanta views the life of human in its wholeness. Its theme is the human in search of the fullness of truth, beauty, and goodness. Part of this search is in the external world, but most significant part of this search lies in the internal world. The first gives social welfare through the applications of the physical and social sciences. The second gives spiritual freedom through the disciplines of morality and religion. There can be no conflict between the two, the secular as against the sacred, as they both refer to only different stages in the growth of the same individual. And Vedanta emphasizes this idea of growth, development, and realization as the central characteristic of life at all levels: physical, mental, moral, or spiritual. Its absence constitutes stagnation and death at any level. Hence its constant refrain in the adaptation given to the words of Katha Upanishad by Swami Vivekananda himself, when he says, within quotes, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." Post-Upanishadic developments in Vedanta. Vedanta arose out of the literature of the Upanishads. At a later stage, it found its best and most dynamic expression as a comprehensive spirituality through Sri Krishna in the Gita. Still later, it found another significant development as the spirituality of renunciation and compassion in the great Buddha. 1200 years later still appeared the brilliant philosopher Shankara, in whom Vedanta achieved its most rational formulation with the widest intellectual sweep. He was followed during the next 8 centuries by great Acharya Ramanuja, and a succession of large-hearted saints and reformers in whom Vedanta achieved a unique emotional enrichment through the infusion of the bhakti element and a long longed-for egalitarian stress through the flow of the Godward passion as a manward love. And in our own time, in the last century, Vedanta found 2 dynamic representatives in Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, who gathered up all the past developments of this ancient thought to produce a sweeping synthesis of all human thought, by joining to it the dynamic affirmations of modern scientific and social thought as well. In conclusion, in spite of its hoary antiquity, Vedanta has been young and dynamic in every past epoch of history. But its most fascinating story is only just opening up in the context of modern world conditions created by science and technology, in which the thinking humanity of the whole world has become its audience. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in this space today. In the next episode, we will begin a new chapter called The Philosophy of the Eternal Religion, where Swami Ranganthananda goes deeper into the concepts of Vedanta, its philosophical and spiritual basis, and its implications on the Sanatana Dharma, and of course, the vision of such an ancient and yet highly advanced and evolved field of study. Until next time, this is your host, Preetha Lal. Namaste.